So welcome back, everybody. I'm Rita Cronice with the PeerTAC, Peer Support Technical Assistance Center, and we just really want to welcome all of you back from our morning session, our exciting morning session. This afternoon, we're moving into our keynote with Robbie Lettieri, but before we do that, we'd love to hear from our Amanda Sake. Thank you, Amanda.
Okay, no problem. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amanda Sake, and I'm the Chief Advocacy Officer here at OMH. I'm a person with lived experience, both as an individual who has used mental health services experiencing trauma from the mental health system. I also have experience working as a peer and supervising peer workers. And I would not be in the recovery stage if it wasn't for the mutuality and support of peers who have accompanied me throughout my journey. I'm honored to belong to this community. This movement has helped and continues to help me center my voice, my dignity, and my resilience in my own mental health journey, and do the same for the people we represent in our work. As you may know, one of our main functions of the Office of Advocacy and Peer Support Services at OMH is the expansion and improvement of peer support services throughout the lifespan and for families. I don't need to tell you the importance of including peers in all services, but if you'll permit me, I will make some statements around that. Peer specialists and advocates collectively provide peer support services across the lifespan that includes youth, families, adults, and older adults. As members of an integrated care team, peer specialists and advocates make substantial contributions, including by assisting with engagement, empowering individuals to achieve and sustain skills, promoting the development of coping mechanisms and relationship building. They are truly resilience and recovery ambassadors for individuals and families that they support. They promote connection and inspire hope. Throughout the past year, we've made great strides both internally here at OMH as well as settings and services throughout the state. Our office has expanded significantly during that time, and a key component of that expansion, particularly as we broaden our scope to encompass the entire lifespan and for families, has been the establishment of youth and family advocacy specialist positions, both at the regional level and statewide levels. Programmatically, we have hosted a regional advisory committee meeting dedicated to the inclusion of youth and family. We have worked to create a bridge program between the youth peer advocate credential and the certified peer specialist certification, ensuring a more inclusive workforce. And our work with PeerTAC, which encompasses the lifespan of youth, family, and adult peer specialists and advocates. And that's produced very fruitful results, including this Supervision Summit, the first of its kind to address educational needs of peer specialists and advocates for adult, youth, and family supervisors. And I couldn't be prouder and more appreciative of the fantastic work my team, the Office of Advocacy and Peer Support Services, are doing to move towards a more person-centered and equitable system. They are an invaluable component to the Office of Mental Health, and their dedication and ferocity are affecting concrete improvements in making the OMH mission a reality for all New Yorkers. So in that vein, I'd like to say a few words about our keynote presenter, Robbie Lettieri. Robbie joined our team last year after serving as the Director of Youth Training Workforce Development at Families Together, New York State. We could not be more fortunate that he's made the decision to join us. Robbie brings vast, rich experience, both in his personal life and from the work he has done into our office, and has tirelessly worked to further the critical work of this office. And I'm delighted that you all get to hear from him. And I also am very excited to introduce Angela Keller, who is one of our most valuable colleagues and has, I can't even begin to describe, how critical she's been in helping to bridge that gap I mentioned earlier, to ensure that our office has that lifespan and family focus. And Angela, I appreciate you. So glad that we're a team, and it is my honor to pass the mic on over to you.
Thank you so much, Amanda. I'm so happy to be here and get this opportunity to share in this introduction and kick off your afternoon. So I'm Angela Keller. I'm the director of the New York State System of Care Project and the director of the Children's Systems Support Unit at the Office of Mental Health and the Division of Integrated Community Services for Children and Families. And do not ask me to repeat that 3 times. Central to the work of the OMH Division of Children and Families is really the power and value of family and youth voice. It really guides certainly everything that I do, but all the work of our division. And for me, as a family member with lived experience myself, I know how important it is when service providers and systems listen to me and my children and provide us with space to set our own goals and make decisions that really best fit our family. And in our journey, having access to others who've walked in our shoes is vital to continuing to have hope and build our resilience in our own journey. One of the tasks of my work unit is to support system of care framework implementation, where local coordinated networks identify gaps, needs, and barriers to develop cross-systems change initiatives. And really, better results can be achieved in these local efforts when families, youth, and adults with lived experience are part of that feedback loop and help deliberate and make decisions. The transformation in the last couple of years to move toward a lifespan vision of peer support services will have a ripple effect across the state in supporting everyone who seeks supports and services from the mental health and other systems. As you all know, a young person's lived experience in the children's system doesn't end when they transition to adult services. All of their experience is with them when they provide supports to others. I really welcome and echo the welcome for day 2 of this summit. You're in for a keynote presentation that's packed full of reflection and advice on how to best support peer advocates in the field, whether adult, family, or youth peer. Robbie is someone who believes strongly in the power of lived experience and what it can bring to somebody's life. And as supervisors, I hope that you'll listen carefully and reflect on ways in which you can support the peers that are working for you and with you. And thank you for what you do to promote peer support services and to support those delivering services. So now I'm going to turn it over to Robbie to share his wisdom and experience with all of you.
And Robbie, before you do, I just wanted to say a couple of real quick words. First of all, thank you all for joining the PeerTAC sponsored keynote. And Robbie's presentation is on supervision, person-centered supervision. Sorry, the Art of Person-Centered Supervision. And I'll be one of the moderators today. Sorry, I'm Rita Cronice and I'm with PeerTAC and I'm like running on no sleep like many of us are. So I really apologize for being a little bit flustered. But before we go on, just your microphones, for those of you in the audience, your microphones will be muted and your cameras off to eliminate any background noise and distractions. We really encourage you to use the chat box and choose everyone in the chat box for comments so that they're visible to all of the attendees. The session is being recorded, and the recording for this session, along with the presentation slides, will be available within 30 days of this presentation on the PeerTAC website. If you lose your connection or accidentally leave the room, choose the link next to the title in the program to rejoin this session. If you're seeking continuing education credit for this, you can't use a phone link to join. So if you're on the phone and you want continuing education, please sign out and back in using an internet link. We're going to reserve about 10 minutes at the end of the session to ask questions, and you'll receive instructions by email from the Alliance for completing a workshop evaluation, which will be required for continuing education. Although we encourage you to fill out this evaluation anyway, whether you're seeking continuing education or not, to give us feedback, especially give really good feedback to our presenters. In order to get continuing education, you need to return that evaluation within 48 hours of receiving it. So watch for an email from the Alliance. And with that, I would like to thank Robbie Lettieri for joining us today. Robbie Lettieri is with the Office of Advocacy and Peer Support Services as a youth peer advocate. Thank you, Robbie, for joining us. And let me just ask you really quickly, do you want to drive or do you want me to drive your slides?
I can drive my slides. Are you sharing them or do you want me to share them?
Go ahead and share them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Give me 1 second. Do you all... Actually, Rita, would you mind driving my slides, please?
You'll have to let me share the screen.
Okay. How do I stop sharing? There we go. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, and sorry for the technical difficulties. Of course, that would happen. But thank you so much, Amanda, and thank you, Angela and Rita, and everyone. And shout out to all of the other keynotes who have shared their knowledge and perspectives. Shireen, Jonathan, Peggy, I feel immensely honored and humbled to be a part of this snazzy lineup. So before we get started, I figured we'd go over the lay of the land for the next hour. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about my own personal lived experience. And then I'm going to share the importance of the peer community and how it catalyzed my own healing journey. We're going to take some time to talk about the stigmatization of peers in the workplace and how we can combat that. And we're going to speak about the value of lived experience and lived expertise. And then we're going to review the do's and don'ts of peer supervision, following by, best practices or recommended practices. Does that sound good? Yeah? Okay, I can't hear you. So if you want to put it in the chat box, feel free. That'd be great. And Rita, if we can go on to slide 6. Next one. Perfect. So yeah, before I dive into my own personal lived experience, I wanted to share some baby photos because, why not? These are some of my humans. My mom, my dad, my sister, my Papa Tony, who was like my dad growing up. And I really want to show this to show that not all of my childhood was terrible. Until I was about 6 or 7, I was living a relatively normal life. After that, things got a bit turbulent, to say the least. Even after what I consider to be the storm. I really don't know how I would have gotten through it without the people in my life. My family, my friends, and many of the beautiful people that I met here within the peer movement, and many who are here today. So thank you all. The peer community is something that I didn't realize I needed until I was graciously welcomed with open arms. To say that the peer community supported me on my own journey is a massive understatement. Instead, I would say that the peer community genuinely saved my life. Can we go on to the next slide, please? Thank you. All right, so without going too in depth, for those who don't know, I grew up with a very rare case of Tourette syndrome and a generalized seizure disorder. I spent the majority of my childhood asleep in induced comas, and when I wasn't medically knocked out, I was likely ticking, seizing, or wishing that I was anything but alive within my own body. When I was 16, right before my 17th birthday, I had a radical brain surgery that saved my life. I now have 2 pacemakers that are placed in my abdomen, with wires that run up my torso, up into my neck, and then into my brain, overstimulating the parts of my brain that doctors hypothesized were overactive. Or, as I like to say, the parts of my brain that were throwing a bit of a temper tantrum. Thank God for modern science, because if not for the surgery, I would be dead, either by natural causes or from my own will, if I'm being completely honest. After the surgery, I woke up to a body in my own control, and I was in complete shock from this illness. I didn't know what it was like to have a body in my own control, and I didn't sleep for the first 48 hours after that because the sense of calm was just so foreign. However, this foreignness soon became euphoric. I was living the life I always dreamed of, but I never actually learned how to live. I didn't know how to regulate my thoughts or emotions. I didn't have access to mental health supports that I needed to remedy what I was experiencing internally, because everyone had simply been focusing on how to tend to my physical body to keep me alive. I want to offer a quick trigger or a hotspot warning. Within the year after my surgery, I was experiencing horrific flashbacks. Many times during the tics and seizures, my consciousness would surface, and I would hear and feel everything that was going on around me. But I had zero control over my body. I would hear people screaming around me. I would feel my bones breaking and my muscles tearing or my joints dislocating. I would feel people grabbing me and trying to stop my body from thrashing and convulsing. And I just had to go along for the ride, as if someone had a remote control and they were just having a field day with the joysticks. I felt like a prisoner within my own body. And I had built many, many walls to try and forget those memories, but a simple peek over the top and I am right back. Teenage Robbie didn't have the coping skills or the social emotional skills or the community really, that 29-year-old Robbie has. And so the flashbacks were crippling, and anxiety and depression consumed my life. I'm not going to further talk about the darkest times in my life because I have a whole lot of other things that I would rather talk to you all about. And I'm sure that you all would rather hear about anything else. So we'll move onward. I'm sure that we have all experienced trauma. I'm not special or unique for having an adverse childhood experience or for having adverse childhood experiences. I wanted to share some of those challenges that I experienced as a young person so that you know I have my own lived experience in the healthcare system, the mental health system, and in general, just navigating some tough situations. I am not stating my peerness or my lived experience so that you take pity on me or give me the metaphorical pat on the head. So yeah, none of that. I do believe that we need to share our stories so that we can impact others in a way that breaks these never-ending cycles of oppression. I was born into a broken body, and I was told that I had a broken mind. I was told that I would be on psych drugs for the rest of my life. I was told that the only way I would financially survive was if I received disability income. I was told that I would never have a job, never have a relationship, never own my own home, and essentially that I would be strapped on this infinite hamster wheel of the system because I was broken. I hope that all of us here never pass on that type of message to another person. And instead, I hope that we can provide hope and possibilities. Because with a little bit of love, with some faith, and a whole lot of community, I am here as living proof that we can escape these faulty narratives that are told to us as if they're facts. I broke those beliefs and I broke those predictions, and I did not do it alone. Let me go on to the next slide, please. Thank you. All right. So I found the peer community on accident. I stumbled across it and I became stuck to the movement like Gorilla Glue. Not Elmer's, I'm talking about that strong stuff. So about 7 years ago, my friend asked if I wanted to attend a support group with her. And I was like, nah, Cal, I'm sorry. Support groups aren't really my thing. And she was kind and she heard me out, but she was also very persistent and kept asking. And eventually, one day I caved. I went. And we attended this group called the Healing Connections Peer Support Group. And it wasn't like any other group that I'd been forced to attend in the past. Every single person had their own stuff going on, even the facilitator. I came back with my friend 2 times after that. And from that initial group, I learned about peer training called the Careers in Recovery and Wellness Training. It was in those groups, and especially in that training led by Tracy Puglisi, that I began to see that healing was not only possible, but it was probable. I learned that there was no shame in having good days and bad days. And I learned not to feel shame about my past, but rather to find peace with it. I was always very quiet and shy, which is odd for what I'm doing right now. But the peer community opened me with welcome arms, and it provided me with authentic support that enabled me to come out of my shell and find my voice. They also supported me in finding hope for the future. So when I say that I wouldn't be here without the peer community, I mean it. When I took the CRW training, I was still fantasizing about death every day. But Tracy Puglisi and all of the incredible guest presenters and the wonderful humans that I took that training with provided a defibrillator on my soul and revitalized my will to continue on.
Oh my.
I never received formal peer services. I never had my own youth peer advocate or my own peer specialist. I received support from the community in very organic ways. And then when I started working within the field and within the movement, my community became my purpose. I'm so grateful for the peer community for providing me with the love and support that you all have shown me. And I'm even more grateful that you taught me how to love and support myself. It was because of those skills that I learned from you all that enabled me to make connections in spaces not tied to any system. When I talk about the importance of peer support, I feel it's the same as everything else. It's a piece of that puzzle. It's an essential piece of the puzzle, but it's just a slice of the whole pie. I don't think that I'm completely healed, and I don't know if I ever will be, but I'm constantly working on my healing journey. So how do I do that? I have the peer community. I have my friends outside of the peer community. I have my family. I work out. I practice mindfulness. I follow a routine. I developed a sleep schedule. Like what? I work. I made my home my fortress where I feel safe. I get out in the sun and nature as much as I can. I take care of my plants. I sing. I play the piano. I swim. I try to do as many things as I possibly can to make me feel alive and make me just feel like myself. And look, I'm really not saying to drink more water and tell yourself I love you 3 times in the mirror every day, and you're gonna feel miraculously amazing. All of these things support my being, and each one acts as a piece of this metaphorical puzzle or pie. So I will once more reiterate what I said earlier, and that is I would not be here if not for the peer community, for authentic peer support. You all saved my life more than I can ever say, and I cannot thank you all enough. Now moving on to the theme of the event, supervising the peer workforce. I wanted to give you all some background so that you knew a little bit about who I was and not just see some random dude up here giving you all a spiel. So if we can please go on to the next slide, that would be great. Thank you. All right, so I was lucky enough that at my first job working as a peer, I was also supervised by a peer. And that peer supervisor is now somebody that I consider to be a dear friend of mine. The lines can get blurred in peer roles, especially amongst peer coworkers and colleagues. When does work end and a relationship or a friendship begin? We'll come back to that question in just a bit. But anyway, this individual is probably going to get mad at me for shouting her out again, but feel my love, Tracy. In case you didn't catch on, I am talking about Tracy Puglisi. And Tracy was so incredibly supportive to me, not only professionally, but also personally. First, she hired me straight out of the CRW training and trusted me to become the first, or to become a lead facilitator of that very training, which was a true extension of her being. So thank you so much for having faith in me and for giving me a shot. And thank you not only for giving me a shot, but also for exemplifying what it was to have incredible work ethic and to pour your heart and soul into your work. The skills that I learned from Tracy, I use every day of my life. I'm also lucky enough to have very positive experiences being supervised by someone outside of the peer community. We tend to talk about the challenges being supervised by clinicians, but we don't always talk about the successes. I've been supervised by multiple individuals with various backgrounds throughout the years. Some were arguably more constructive supervisory relationships than others, but today we're going to focus on the good stuff. And today I am supervised by 2 individuals. One of them is a social worker. Her name is Marianne Braithwaite. And Marianne is enormously supportive and seeks to genuinely understand what we do in advocacy roles. She is an ally to the peer workforce, and I've learned so much from her in a very short amount of time, simply by observing her, and that because of the work that I'm doing, that she approves, and that we get to do together. I continue to learn about what goes on within each department here at OMH and beyond, which allows me to expand my skill set. And she and a few others here have inspired me to go back to grad school to get my MSW. So thank you for that, Marianne, if you ever watch this. It is so important that supervisors encourage and enable staff to grow their skill set, not just stay stuck in one lane, but instead gently nudge peer staff to expand their knowledge and their expertise, if and when they're comfortable doing so. I also feel beyond blessed to be supervised by Liz Breyer, who is an absolute bleeping rock star. And Liz self-discloses her peer status and lived experience. Liz can connect on a level that reflects the peer community in terms of the values and principles and the experience, while operating in her supervisory role as a mentor and a coach. She understands the challenges and triumphs that take place within the workforce. Liz provides me with a much needed safe space. Her energy is immaculate. And I've looked up to both Liz and Marianne long before they were my supervisors, and I take everything that they say with weight and value. Having a peer supervisor has been critical to not only performing my job duties, but also to my willingness to stay within this field while operating within a peer role. Liz is a problem solver. I know whatever I ask Liz, she will have an answer that I will receive with dignity. And Marianne is a walking library. Watch out AI, because Marianne Braithwaite is coming through. For real, she is a wealth of information. I can ask Marianne anything I might be unsure about, and I know that she'll have the answer. And if she doesn't, she will know who I should ask. Supervisors possess wisdom, and they also possess humility. It's okay to say, you know what, I'm not sure, let me get back to you. Or I would ask Brian, or Val, or Jamie, or Bob, or whoever, you know. I understand the weight of a supervisor, and I am so glad that we all have supervisors, regardless of what role we may be operating in. Supervision requires us to walk a very fine line at times. We want to be a support, and we also want to be a guide. We want to be a cheerleader, while at times we also want to be a coach. At the end of the day, we all got deliverables. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Perfect, thank you. All right, so peer roles are extremely unique. You know, their functions and their job duties are, or they should be, heavily rooted in the values and principles of peer support. However, some expect peers to perform clinical job duties, while others expect peers to do scut work, or work that no one else really wants to do. Peers are so incredibly unique because of their firsthand knowledge navigating systems and their ability to connect because of that very experience. They provide hope, they can embody support, they can make connections and build community. The individual receiving support services is there voluntarily. They are not coerced into services. The connection is focused on recovery and brighter days ahead, while also holding space for the darkness that might come up in that moment. Peers provide a very crucial and organic service. Next slide, please. Thank you. All right, so we know that the utilization of peers in programming decreases hospitalization rates and it increases service engagement, fosters healthy coping skills, say that 3 times fast, and higher long-term rates of success. Peers should not be stigmatized or discriminated against simply because they are essentially outed about their lived experience, but rather they should be respected and compensated for their highly unique skills that they bring to the table, that we bring to the table. You don't have to if you're not comfortable, but by using the chat box, how many of us here have our own systems involvement or experience navigating, whether it be emotional distress or a traumatic life experience? All right, so I'm seeing a lot come in. Thank you, tribe. Okay, so you can please feel free to keep putting those in, but onto the next part of the question, how many of you who just answered yes also have the title or the word peer in your title at work? Yep, not anymore. Yes, no. Okay, so it's a little bit more of some mixed reviews there. And I think that speaks some volumes, I'm still seeing a lot come in. Thank you so much. Not nearly as much have that same experience of having peer in their title as they do for having the actual experience of a peer. We need to look at each other with respect, and we need to see the value that each of us bring to our roles. And we also need to allow individuals working within peer roles to shine and flourish within these roles. I'm going to come back. I had a thought that I wanted to run off on a tangent, but I'm going to reserve that tangent until a little bit later, if that's all right with you all. But I really feel that we must work to eradicate our biases, regardless of race, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, peer status, religion, nationality, and so on. We must foster person-driven supervision. Rather than coming to supervision and saying, hey, so yeah, I need you to do this, that, and the third. I need you to get your caseload up to 40 people. I need you to call Mariah Carey's mother. I don't know why Mariah Carey was the first name that just came up in my mind, but anywho, moving on. Instead, why don't we ask, hey, how are you holding up today? How are you managing to take care of yourself while also supporting 25 other individuals? And if you feel so inclined, perhaps ask, would you feel comfortable taking on another 15? Because our team was just tasked with increasing our slots. I'm sorry. But like you can have these conversations and like get the deliverables and the outcomes that we need, but also just be mindful that you're working with a human being who has a lot on their plate, who is doing the best that they can, and they are really out there doing the work. When providing supervision, it is all about delivery and it is about the intention. Many of us have 1,000,001 things going on at once, and we tend to be as direct as possible, which is great. Personally, I always prefer direct communication, but we must keep in mind that we are working within human services. We are serving humans. We are working with humans. And we are working with humans who are supporting humans while having their own human experience. Have you ever heard human that many times in one breath? My grandma always told me, Mia Roberto, you catch more bees with honey. Now, I am not saying that we have to sugarcoat our deliverables or our directives, but we must be mindful on how we are leading our team. We are not there to discipline like we are parents. We aren't there to make ourselves feel superior because we might have a wounded ego. We aren't there to smother or micromanage. No helicopter parenting, all right, at least not at work. I can't control what you do behind closed doors because that is your own business. But peers have the skill set that got them to be certified and credentialed and hired at your agency. And if you're supervising them, you likely hired them. So they are willing and able to provide this invaluable service, and we must allow them to drive the car. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Thank you. So I like to look at it as if supervisors are there to be like Siri, offering staff potential routes to get them where they are trying to go. But they themselves, the peer, the individual, is the one who is in the actual driver's seat. It requires a little bit of faith and a whole lot of trust, but we need to allow these skilled individuals to provide the services that they were trained to offer. And we must learn how to best support them. And how do we learn? The same as anything else. We ask them directly. We humble ourselves. We seek continuing education opportunities. We get support from other supervisors and experts. We may be the supervisor, but that does not mean that we are better than anyone, regardless of what letters we have after our name, or what degrees we hold, or what year we were born in. Look, I'll be honest, I'm a millennial. I was born in '94. I see people in Gen Z and Gen Alpha now, and I think, what in the world? No shade, but sheesh, or whatever the kids are saying these days. But what I am trying to say is that we all have our own biases. It is human nature to believe that our way is the right way. That said, the prevalence of ageism and adultism within the workplace must be addressed. I am 29 years old. I hold my YPA credential and my peer specialist certification and my bachelor's in community health and human services. I am still part of the youth community, even though I am very close to aging out. I'm right on that cusp. I am still a young person. And while at times I am well over being the youth in the room, the part of me that just popped his first gray beard hair is holding on to that youth status for as long as I can. So I have been treated like a kid at times. You know, oh, I remember when I was your age, or, oh, it's okay, buddy. Or my favorite is, oh, it's okay, you'll have a higher salary that you can live on while working one job when you get to be older. Meanwhile, I'm a 6'3" bald man with a mortgage. Like, come on now. We really must work to support these professionals across the lifespan. Next slide, please. Alrighty. So something that we need to be extremely mindful about is perpetuating this double standard where we are fearing that a peer might relapse. You know, I can't tell you how many times I've heard supervisors talk about the fact they are anxious to hire peers because they might become symptomatic, or they might become depressed or have a panic attack or become manic or start using substances again, or they might have a flare-up in their healthcare challenges. I hear what supervisors tell me, but I will be honest, it really grinds my gears. And what I'll tell these supervisors is likely all of your staff has had a major life disruption that caused them immense emotional distress at one point of their lives or another. Have you ever experienced emotional distress? Were you ever given a diagnosis of any kind? Should I be worried that you might not be able to do your job? Respectfully. You know, statistics show that 1 in 5 individuals within the United States has a psychiatric diagnosis, and over 70% of the US population has at least one traumatic life experience under their belt. You can have a licensed mental health counselor or a social worker or a doctor who is phenomenal at their job, and they might secretly be struggling with addiction or depression or anxiety or the loss of a family member or a complex health condition, and they might relapse or become symptomatic. And likely no one will bat an eye because we understand that stuff happens to everyone and we all have good days and bad days. And honestly, we likely won't know because we aren't looking for it. We are discriminated against and belittled simply because we have the term peer in our titles. You know, peers have to show up on their best behavior day in and day out. There's no opportunity for a slip up. And we are ultimately held to a bit of a different standard. And I feel like I won't go into too much of a tangent because this can be its own hour-long spiel. So I'll keep it moving. But, you know, we are perpetually outed and we're frankly exploited before we even walk into a room. And so please be mindful of this. We are all human. We all have our own biases, and we can all work to address and dismantle our own biases. And we must do just that. We need to infuse strengths-based, person-driven approaches into our own supervisory practices. We need to stop looking at peers as patients and start seeing peers as the experts that they are. Peers are professionals with immense value and expertise and gifts to offer. Supervisors just might learn a thing or two from peers. And I got to give a quick shout out to Kathy Kent and Nivea Jackson for coining the term and developing curriculum outlining the meaning of lived expertise as opposed to just lived experience. There is a difference. So Kathy and Nivea, if you are here, please put your contact information in the chat so that people can contact you and learn more about your training. This workforce is far more than just a workforce to me, and I am sure many others. This truly is my community and my home. Peer support showed up like a lighthouse in my life. And it was there in the far distance, and it slowly just like crept up, or I got closer, however we want to look at that dynamic. But wow, peer support truly provided a safe harbor for me to weather the storms in my life. You all showed me that I was more than my past. I was more than my traumas. I was more than my diagnoses. You showed me that I can love myself for simply being who I was. Unconditional love isn't something that I was used to, you know, and you all provided me with a sense of unconditional love that somehow glued back together all the broken pieces that I had. Supervisors have a unique opportunity and a privilege to mirror that safe harbor for the staff that we supervise, who every day are out there literally saving lives like my own. Peer support is suicide prevention, and all of us have the opportunity to be that not too distant light shining through the storm. Now, I hope every situation isn't viewed as a storm. And I hope that when we imagine our lives, we aren't always envisioning the metaphor of, rough seas in the middle of the night. However, I'm not naive enough to believe that we're all walking through fields of daisies every day of our lives either. Supervisors have the privilege of being a support to the supporters. Supervisors aren't there to diagnose employees or to pathologize peer staff. Supervisors aren't there to parent their staff. Supervisors are there to authentically support staff to meet deliverables, to show staff how to learn and understand their job duties, to provide ways to grow professionally, and to mentor and to provide a safe space to navigate challenges. We can troubleshoot, we can provide different perspectives, we can answer questions and offer a nudge in the right direction. And supervisors have their roles because of their wisdom, their expertise, and because of their ability to problem solve. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Thank you. All right, so in the chat box, I would love to hear from you all. What do you think might be considered best practices or recommended practices while supervising peer workers? I see Denise put person-centered language is crucial. TIC supervision, coaching and mentoring model, active listening, supportive conversation, humility that the supervisor is not the know-it-all, empathy and respect, ask, yes, hear what they are saying and not what you think they are saying, mutual learning, showing empowerment, honesty and transparency, availability, understanding, free of judgment, high expectations, not seeing, sorry, these are coming in really quick now. These are amazing, please keep them going. Thank you all so much. Those really are great practices that we can all try. If we can please go on to the next slide. So I think it's something that, or a potential outline that alludes to a lot of the practices that you have all mentioned are the 7 Ps. Person, place, process, performance, possibilities, partnership, and perspective. People, essentially supervisors are tasked with managing people, managing tasks, deliverables, emotions, situations, relationships, administrative functions, and so on. Something I try to live by is offering authentic kindness. No phony baloney, BS, think of the pre-K golden rule, treat people how you want to be treated. The world is already harsh enough, it's really not that hard to treat people with dignity. In general, our utmost responsibility is the people that we supervise. So how are we interacting with them? How are we making them feel? We'll dive more into that in just a moment. Place, where are your staff offering services? Supervisors aren't meant to be helicopter parents, but supervisors need to know where their staff are in case of a crisis. And we need to know what's going on and where these services are being offered in order for us to be able to, legally sign off on a timesheet or a work plan. Looking at the process, supervisors inform staff about policies, procedures, required tasks, rules, and regulations. We all have our own way of doing things, and it's great to have a framework as a rule of thumb when offering direction and receiving feedback. However, it's also crucial that supervisors and supervisees remain flexible in the dynamic. It's a synergistic relationship. And so we might just be surprised to learn something by listening to someone else other than our own voice in our head. Collaboration truly is essential. Looking at the performance, we want to ensure that all deliverables are being met. We want to ensure that work is getting done and moving along in a timely manner. We want to continue developing our staff's skill set in order to deliver the best possible support service. It is imperative that we make our expectations transparent, and this is where those people skills are really going to come into play, because supervisors need results while keeping morale high. Looking at possibilities, there are bound to be mishaps along the way. Just think about when you first entered the workforce, or even the small mishaps that might take place along the way. Even for the most seasoned, I'm not saying that I'm the most seasoned, but if you're like me, just last week I had a little oopsie. So it happens to the best of us, and just to be kind and understanding. Looking at partnership, please partner with your staff. You're not there to be a dictator. You're not a king or a queen with servants running around to fluff your ego. You're there to treat staff with dignity. Please. And please be open to learning their ideas so that you can support them to make their dreams a reality if they happen to fit within the scope of work. And then perspectives. Can we go on to the next slide, please? Thank you. Perspectives, our perspective really is our superpower. Instead of seeing a mistake or an opportunity to reprimand, how about we view it as an opportunity for growth? How can we frame this hypothetical mistake as an opportunity to gently educate while modeling a different approach that might get better results? I've personally had supervisors that have been little monsters. Without naming any names, some supervisors seem to deliberately try to make me feel small and inferior or disposable. Supervisors that I would go home and cry about in bed, feeling like I was a little kid. I've also had fearless leaders, and some who I am grateful to call my friends today. And I grew tremendously from their gentle yet strong mentorship. Can we move on to the next slide? Perfect, thank you. So we have the opportunity to shape how we will be remembered. They, whoever they are, say that people won't remember what you said, but they will remember how you made them feel. I've been asked a lot about criticism in the past. How can we be gentle leaders while acknowledging an individual's weaknesses? Well, for starters, perspective, which goes back to the 7 Ps. But it is possible and also necessary to be a leader while addressing opportunities for growth in a respectful manner. The key is to not be condescending or intentionally insulting when identifying growth opportunities. It's a delicate line that sometimes takes a lot of mental energy, but we can offer constructive feedback while being mindful of how our message will be received. Imagine that you are the individual that you are supervising. How would you receive your message? And based on your knowledge of that individual, how do you think that they might receive your message? I won't lie, I'm not perfect at this. There are times when I've felt like I've had 1,000,001 different things on my plate. And when someone asks me a question, or even if I ask for someone, or if I ask something, I just give a very direct response because I just need the work to get done. But then I'll pause and reflect. And if I need to course correct, I will. We can't let our pride or our ego get in the way of the relationships that we are fostering. We are tasked with what sometimes feels like a mission impossible. But to me, the core of supervision is building and fostering positive relationships that will support the development of rock stars in the making. And not for nothing, rock stars of the present. I think because I've spent so much time, more than half of my life completely out of control, I started clinging to whatever sense of control I did have. Whatever I could anticipate or any crisis that I could foresee was also something that could then be averted. But I'll say that imaginative control that I had gave me a lot of anxiety. And I already had a hefty serving of anxiety, so I didn't need any more of that. I realized that I could let go of control And I realized that I could let go once I actually learned to trust myself and to trust my team. I developed programs and projects that I viewed as my own children, for lack of a better term. I took immense pride in them, and I wanted to protect them and see them thrive and positively impact the world more than anything. When I started overseeing individuals and teams, at first I was like, how do I do this? How do I release control? And then I realized, the people that I was mentoring were highly skilled. They were exactly where they were because they did the work to get there. They had their own unique sets of gifts and magic. After all, we are hiring our staff. We're choosing these people for a reason. Because they're more than capable, right? So I realized that if I wanted to go somewhere fast, I could go alone. But if I wanted to go somewhere far, then I would have to go together. I would need a team at that point. I take pride in my independence and my ability to work alone. But I also realize the immeasurable value of having a team and community. You all. And the merging of magic from multiple marvelous perspectives. I want all the supervisors here today to realize that you are surrounded by magic. Every now and then we might have to just take a deep breath and have some trust in our teams. And don't be afraid to throw a compliment every now and then, all right? I promise you, neglecting to offer a kind word will always do more harm than offering a good job, Those words of encouragement might be the only ones that that person will hear all day or all week or all month. When in doubt, be kind and do it sincerely, please. Being a part of the peer community, those of us with trauma histories have a pretty keen knack for identifying bullshit. And a petty patronizing compliment is almost as bad as I won't do the compliment or the gesture because I just said bullshit. Again, anyway, moving on. Read between the lines. Okay, so let's be real for a moment. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Thank you. Next slide. Thank you. Okay. So we work in an incredibly demanding, at times rewarding, and an always important workforce. My friends outside of the peer community and outside of the mental health field aren't looking to become public servants. They're not looking to join the workforce of social welfare or human services. They're looking to join or have already joined the fields of finance and marketing and tech or media, fields where they can make money and support their own life while working for a company that allows them to live that life. Those are exciting fields that serve a purpose, just like ours. But we have a genuine purpose. And not to sound condescending, I might be biased, but I believe that we truly have a purpose. Every day I wake up and I know that I'm doing what I was put here to do, or at least I try to believe that on most days. Now, those fields that I mentioned prior, they might advance humanity, but our field sustains humanity. Our minds are our greatest assets, but they are also our greatest weapons. They are gifts that fuel advancement while being equally responsible for our demise. We cannot progress if we lose that which makes us human. Love, joy, community, laughter, compassion, empathy. In our world, I find it's becoming increasingly difficult to enjoy those simple things. We're plagued by fear, indebted to debt itself, oversaturated with political polarization. Our relationships are becoming harder to sustain because we are becoming more complex and individualized, needy, self-entitled. Our emotions are being conditioned to drop to lower vibrations, and we are experiencing a global pandemic of emotional distress. But we, all of us here, and anyone doing this work, is essential to alleviating that pain. We are essential to offering that guiding light in the darkness. And who better to offer that light to than the individuals that you are mentoring? Don't let your light go to waste. Please be a lighthouse. all of those rules, all of the tongue biting, the mindful deliveries, the time management, the people management, it's exhausting, right? Or it doesn't have to be, okay? Just be the best you that you can be for all of those around you, and recognize the privilege that you have in supervising this badass workforce. Quick story time. At least for me, we'll call it pre-workforce era circa Starbucks, okay? So when I was younger, I worked at Starbucks, and dealing with the public can be, let's just say, humbling. One day, this lady asked me for a Trenta iced coffee. And in that coffee, she asked for the essence of a Splenda. I'm like, what the fuck is the essence of a Splenda? So as she's inserting her credit card into the reader, I go and fill up her iced coffee and I add 1 Splenda to it. And I give it to her. And she takes a sip and then proceeds to spit it out all over the counter and partially on my emerald green apron. And so I was like just completely dumbfounded and just a scotch disgusted. And so I asked, oh my gosh, are you okay? And she goes, I asked for the essence of a Splenda. Okay, I'm sorry. I only put 1 Splenda in your coffee. And she goes, I don't want the full Splenda in my coffee. Sorry, ma'am, I'm not following. She then tells me, I want you to rip the top of the Splenda packet over my coffee, top of the packet facing towards the sky, so that when you open the packet, I just get the essence of Splenda falling down into my cup. Sis. What? Moral of the story, clear communication is essential. If we offer direction that can be misinterpreted, more times than not, it will likely be misinterpreted. All right. I don't consider myself to be a very religious person, but I do consider myself to be mindfully spiritual. I grew up Catholic, and I later became very much involved in the mindfulness community with yoga and meditation. And I truly believe in the power of intention and vibration. I believe in God and I believe in the universe. And way back when I worked at Starbucks, I started this practice where I would look for God in every person that I met. So call it God, call it the universe, whatever noun you fancy, knock yourself out. I looked for purity and for kindness, for gentleness. I tried to honor the fact that everyone is battling their own demons and their own traumas that we can't possibly know what's going on beyond the surface or below the surface. This made it easier to offer compassion and to be mindful when I otherwise might have chosen to throw a nice coffee in someone's face. So I still use this practice today. Not the coffee throwing, the searching for good in people. Although I use that technique of searching for the good when I'm in the office, when I'm out in the field. I've used it when supervising a team or when overseeing a project. And it has truly helped me to keep my own integrity while fostering positive relationships and contributing to a nice sense of morale, if you will. Remember why you came into this field. And if you came into this field to make a positive impact, or if you came into this field to support someone in a way that you wish that you might have been supported in the past, or to impact policy that will revitalize systems, honor that. Whatever your reason was, own it. Now, if your reason was to have control over people or to make yourself look like you're a good person, then get out of here. All right? Just kidding. Or am I? Next slide, please. Thank you. All right, so in the spirit of community, I can't be up here and not shout out a few of the individuals who have drastically made my life better. These are my rays of light within the movement, and within the workforce, and within my and our community. Getting to share space, safe space, and also be able to grow and thrive and navigate life with these individuals will always fill me with warmth and gratitude. Some of these people are Tiara Springer-Love, Kathy Kent, Nivea Jackson, Megan Simpson, Dorothy Weiss, Laura Romanoff, Tracy Puglisi, M. Wasserman, Ashton Daly, Nancy Gonzalez, Alex Frasina, Brittany McField, the entire OAPSS team, and so many others that I'm likely forgetting. But please just know how grateful that I am for you all. And it is because of all of you that I am still here today. Peer support works. This community is my home, and it is a home to many. And I can't tell you how grateful I am to have been given the opportunity to walk through the doors to this home. So thank you all for your friendship, and thank you for giving me space to feel safe, to feel seen, and thank you all for your love. I promise you that I'll always fight to uphold the values and principles of peer support, and I will always advocate for the expansion and the sustainability of the peer workforce, and more importantly, for the peer community. But it is up to all of us to keep our home a safe harbor to weather the storm. Can we please go on to the next slide? Thank you. So it is up to each of us to be this lighthouse, or to be a lighthouse, and show others that they're not alone. I shared earlier that I'm a little hippy-dippity, so if I may, I'd like to leave you all with some positive affirmations. If you are comfortable doing so, please feel free to close your eyes and take a deep breath in. Exhale out. And silently repeat to yourself, I am safe. I am loved. I am loving. And I am lovable. I am here for a reason. And every day I get to live out my life's purpose. Maybe give yourself a gentle hug, or if you have your eyes closed and you want to imagine you're looking into a mirror, now silently repeat to yourself, I feel you. I am grateful for you. And I am never alone. We are never alone. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you all for the work that you're doing. I see you, I'm grateful for you, and I love you.
Thank you. Thank you, Robbie, for that very inspiring presentation. There's a lot of kind of chatter in the chat that says just, you know, how great it is that you're able to share your story and all of the inspiration that you've given to participants. So just want to say thank you for joining us for PeerTAC Summit, and thank you for the wonderful keynote. We have come to the time for the end of the program. So just a couple things I want to remind folks that if you are in attendance today and you need CEs for participation, you will be given, you will be sent a workshop evaluation. If you can please complete that, the session will be worth, I think, 1 CE. And so again, you should see that show up in your email. We have a small break in between our next session, but to access the next session, please choose the title and click on the title on the link of in the program that you were given so that you are able to access the next session. A recording of the session will be made available within the next 30 days on our PeerTAC website, so definitely look out for that. And once again, thank you all for joining. We appreciate your time. We appreciate you putting your comments in the chat, and we're hoping that you will stay with us for the next half of our day. So thank you so much.